Welcome to the Moved to Meditate podcast. I'm your host, Addie D. Hilster. If you're a yoga practitioner or teacher who knows that there's more to yoga than poses, but you're wondering where to find that, come join our quiet little party. Here you'll find resources to help you deepen your practice, as well as insightful conversations with yoga, movement, and meditation teachers from a range of traditions. On this podcast, we spotlight the more contemplative aspects of movement practice. So we talk about all things gentle yoga, meditation, yin, restorative, yoga therapy, mindfulness, and more. Listen in and connect to a community of like-minded practitioners. Hi, everybody. It's a beautiful December afternoon here in Vancouver, Washington. The sun is out right now, but there was ice on the ground this morning, which is very exciting for me. We also just got our new kitten this last weekend, and we're having the best time ever. But I'm also looking at the calendar and realizing I have not started any of my holiday shopping yet. Uh-oh. Do you think I could get away with giving people a gift certificate to my Move to Meditate class library? Probably not, but you can. If you're looking for a holiday gift that's doesn't take a long time to ship, that's easy to access, that isn't just more stuff, that might help someone you care about to stress a little bit less, to feel a little bit better in their body, it's easy for them to use, and maybe results in you having a new yoga buddy in the new year, then I think I have an idea for you. We have gift cards at the Move to Meditate class library, and you can choose how many months you want to gift someone a subscription. You can pick a flat amount to gift them, and it's really easy. You just fill it out with your little holiday message, and you will have it emailed automatically to your recipient, and they'll get instructions on how to claim their credit and get started with their classes. And you can even purchase it now and pick the date and time that you'd like the gift card to arrive to them, which is pretty cool. So you don't have to wait until the last minute to get your shopping done, unless you're listening to this at the last minute like me and you haven't started yet. So anyway, this is an idea for you, Move to Meditate gift cards to get your friends and family moving in a mindful and gentle way. So you can find this at movedtomeditate.yoga/gift cards. movedtomeditate.yoga/gift cards, plural. All right, thank you. And here we go into today's episode. All right, so this is Addie, and today I'm going to be talking about walking meditation as a form of mindful movement practice. We can get to know in our practice some different options for engaging with mindfulness and developing mindfulness. And once we know about these different options and know that they're available, there's also the matter of how to choose from all of these different tools in our toolbox, and when might more movement be helpful, when might more stillness be helpful, etc. So in particular today, I wanted to highlight walking meditation, which is another traditional form within Buddhist meditation, but it's a movement practice. It's usually taught in combination with sitting meditation. So you have some variety and some going back and forth between movement and stillness already within that framework of insight meditation or Buddhist mindfulness meditation practice, which is a tradition that I've learned. So we'll talk about walking meditation a good bit today, and I think it can be a great complement or even a great entry point for people who like to do body-based practices and movement practices like yoga or like Qigong or Feldenkrais or walking or whatever, what have you. So as we start to look at walking meditation and walking as a meditation practice, there are several different ways. And it kind of depends on the tradition and how it's taught. I've actually experienced walking meditation, walking in a circle with others at a Zen center. You kind of follow one behind the other in a circle. It's a little more of a brisk pace, and also a different form of walking meditation, circumambulating a whole property together with people while chanting Om Mani Padme Hung on a Tibetan Buddhist retreat. And I've also gotten to experience labyrinth style walking meditation, where you walk on a labyrinth that's on the ground. You kind of follow the pattern. And that form of meditation has pre-Christian roots and was developed over centuries in the Christian tradition too. I'll have to have my friend Peggy come on sometime and tell you more about that. But this is just to say that there are a lot of different forms of walking meditation. You know, I also like to go on mindful walks through the neighborhood or in the park, bringing the spirit of mindfulness just into a more ordinary kind of walking. But the instructions that I will give you today and that I'll focus on and kind of what I'm drawing from in the way I'm referencing walking meditation, it's from a slow type of walking meditation from the Theravada Buddhist tradition, which is also known as insight meditation or mindfulness meditation. So I'm bringing this in for many reasons, but I also kind of wanted to talk about how in meditation, we're developing a particular balance of alertness and ease. So these are the kind of qualities that we want to balance in the mind, but also in the body, because the body and the mind are intricately affecting each other moment to moment. So this balance of alertness and ease. We want the mind to be pretty vibrant when we're meditating, but at the same time calm. Vibrant calm. You know, ordinarily in life, we're often active in the mind, but in a more agitated way, in a more busy kind of way. Or when we find we're relaxed in the mind and the body, often we tend to be in a less wakeful state. So in meditation or in mindful movement, it's interesting because we get to learn how to practice being awake and being clear, but also being really at ease all at the same time. And so this kind of attention that we can develop, it allows us to observe our experience in a whole new way, right? To see it with less of the distraction of the busy mind and not the dullness or spaciness of a sleepy mind, but with more clarity and less reactivity. So I spoke in the last solo episode also, the one that was about can movement be your meditation? I talked about de-compartmentalizing mindful movement and meditation, or yoga and meditation. And maybe starting to look at these activities as more like different points on a spectrum of mindfulness practice, rather than putting them in these like totally separate categories, which I think people tend to do. And even, you know, it's so obvious when you go to like learn meditation and you have to go to a meditation center, you go to learn yoga and you have to go to a yoga center, and it's like never the two shall meet. What? Or, you know, it's very true with a lot of the other mindful movement practices that the practices of stillness are done somewhere else, or the instruction is not all given together. So I'm interested in, can we decompartmentalize a little in the way we think about this? And I talked in that episode about some of the benefits of each, the stillness practice and the movement practice, and what we can learn from both, so how they can complement each other. So if you missed that one, do go back and listen to it if you're interested. I think it'll kind of inform this episode as well. So walking meditation, I think, can be one of those practices that creates a nice connection between the movement practice and the stillness practice. It could be kind of in the middle of the spectrum if you think about the spectrum of mindfulness, where on one side you have complete stillness, like sitting meditation or lying down meditation. Or on the other end of the spectrum, maybe you have mindful dishwashing or a mindful conversation, bringing in that daily life mindfulness, which is absolutely part of the practice. It's grounded in the experiences we have developing mindfulness in a more formal way, but that could be the more active end of the spectrum. And somewhere in the middle, we could have this walking meditation experience where we learn to cultivate that same kind of vibrancy and ease in the body and mind, but in a structure, within a mindfulness context, like a practice context. So walking meditation is movement. It is movement like washing the dishes or like doing yoga, but it's also really simple. Like sitting meditation is really simple, where you are not going anywhere, you're not moving around, you're not looking around, you're probably just tuning into the breath or sensations in the body or one of the senses, like hearing perhaps. So simple. The simplicity helps us to rein the mind in and kind of create a little more momentum behind our ability to focus. So walking meditation, it has some elements of both, right? We can actually have some of the benefits in walking meditation of being able to like discharge energy when we feel kind of revved up. And also the sense of like letting the nervous system be a little bit more engaged with our environment, and kind of like our eyes can look around and orient, and we can see where we are, and we can sort of settle our system through the movement, the actual movement of walking back and forth really gently and rhythmically. And at the same time, it is less complex than doing yoga or doing qigong or some other kind of movement practice like that, where we're kind of going from exercise to exercise, right? So the walking meditation has this, ability, this possibility of letting the mind get into kind of a groove of being less distracted, because we don't have to think about what we're doing next or doing it right or like planning the next pose or hopefully not comparing to others or how we're doing. Of course, doing walking meditation, you can still get distracted. Your mind can definitely get bored and start planning how to go make a cup of tea or do whatever, but that's just a part of the meditation process no matter what, right? This learning to come back and be present with our intention. So to look at the way that walking meditation is typically used, like in retreat practice, if you were to go like on a mindfulness retreat, you would probably be alternating sessions of sitting meditation and walking meditation. That's kind of how it's typically taught in the Theravadan Buddhist influenced mindfulness world. And so we do this because it helps you keep your body kind of fresh. It helps you from getting too stiff. It kind of like helps us to not go into a daze or get our energy into too much of a stagnant place. It provides some relief. It's helpful, and it contributes, I think, to that balance of energy between the alertness and the ease, and the way that we want to kind of cultivate, shape, and mold our mind. But at home, you could do that. You could alternate, or you could do one back to back, combine walking and sitting practice. But you also might just choose walking meditation as like your main practice for a day, or in a life phase for a longer period of time. If you're finding that you're kind of in a more agitated state, or you're in a phase where you're struggling with stillness. It could be also a great first place to start if you're newer to meditation and you're interested in learning to meditate, but you're kind of like unsure that you could sit still and you're not really like connecting to that part of the practice. Walking meditation could be a good option. For people with anxiety or kind of a feeling of being on edge or revved up, traditional seated meditation can sometimes be really challenging and maybe even counterproductive if it leads to a kind of hyper focus on the uncomfortable emotions and sensations and thoughts. So if you've had that experience of just being really uncomfortable and like kind of it amplifying the feeling of discomfort or anxiety, you might look at doing a different kind of meditation like this, like doing some walking rather than the stillness. It's like one way of looking at that, if that kind of anxious presentation is like seeing it as being in the state of too much alertness and not enough calm, right? It doesn't mean we wouldn't ever be able to sit in stillness and do that kind of meditation, but we might need to start somewhere else. So walking meditation could be a really excellent way to cultivate the same skills of non-judgmental observation and presence, but allowing us to stay connected to the external senses and giving our energy a little bit of an outlet through the movement, so it doesn't feel like it's building up as we're sitting still. You might find you can release if there's some kind of like excess feeling of energy, excess emotion, and even learn how to ride some of those waves of stronger emotions and sensations through this kind of movement, because it's in a mindfulness context and it's really simple. So, putting that possibility out there. Another way that I will sometimes use walking meditation is when I'm getting too spacey or sleepy in my sitting practice. Like sometimes when you sit down to meditate and your mind is just really foggy, or you're kind of tired, or you're going through kind of a phase where your brain's way of avoiding meditation is to just kind of shut down. This can be a good time to bring in more movement and kind of see if that can create a little more of this balance. Because that's like that dullness, spacey, sleepy place is more like the other end of too much calm and not enough alertness, right? It's sort of like the opposite of the anxious feeling. And we can also bounce back and forth between the two. So that happens as well as we're finding this balance. So you can also think of walking meditation as an option when you're working on linking the mindful movement and the stillness together in your practice, if you've thought about that. Some of the classes that I have in the Move to Meditate library include walking meditation with yoga because of this, because I was really interested in playing with how we can blend walking meditation and yoga together and see if it influences the way that we're being present in the practice. Like when you're wanting to be like less distracted and more present going through your mat practice and doing your postural work, walking meditation could be like that middle ground way of experiencing that. So you might start your practice with a little bit of walking meditation and then let that flow into some asana, some postural practice, and see what effect that has. Or could it go the other way as well if you're looking at how can I translate this like embodied feeling I get from yoga or movement practice into my meditation, so it doesn't feel like I'm all up in my head when I'm meditating. That could be the other way that walking meditation could be like a middle ground or a link. Like you could practice still being interested and mindful as you're walking, even though the sensations of walking are subtler and simpler. There's like not as much of a stretch. There's probably not any stretch. Not very much effort. It's different than doing like a warrior two pose. And see if you can keep your interest there. See if you can stay mindful as you're doing a movement that's a bit more like a simple meditation. So it could work that direction as well. So how do we do this? I'll give you some really brief instructions if this has piqued your interest and you want to try doing some walking meditation in the insight meditation style. Again, there's some classes in the Move to Meditate library that include walking meditation along with the asana, so you might look that up. But here's some simple instructions to you. You can pause your podcast if you want, unless you're driving, and just try this out for a few minutes. You might just set a timer for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, see how it goes, and find a space. You want to find a lane, simple lane of several feet. It could be up to like 20 feet, but it could also be shorter, and just a space you can walk up and down. It could be as short as your yoga mat. I use my yoga mat plenty, so it doesn't have to be especially large. You don't really have to have like a fancy space to do this. It could also be outside if you happen to have like a quiet spot outside that would work. Where you won't weird out your neighbors too much. Maybe you have a hallway that you can go up and down, or a larger room or a balcony or something like that. So what you do is you find this lane, set your timer, and then start standing at one end of the space and pause. Give yourself a moment, check in, get grounded. If you can feel your feet, that's a good place to kind of connect and feel your feet on the ground. And then when you're ready, don't rush this, but when you're ready, you just start to slowly lift one foot and step it forward. And then you feel the weight of the body shift. The back foot starts to lift all by itself. Then it swings forward. Then it lands. And we keep going. And we find a pace that just helps you to stay present. For some people, it's a little slower. For some people, it's a little faster. If you go too slow, you might find you struggle with balance. Although this can be a great way to work on your balance. Not our primary objective, but it could be a good side effect. If you do go too fast, though, on the other end, you might not have that kind of meditative feel that we're looking for. So try to find a good pace that allows you to sort of stay with it and to stay with the feeling of like, I'm doing something meditative right now. I'm not trying to get anywhere, not trying to get to the end of the lane. I'm not trying to like find my way across and accomplish that. It's just sort of meditation in motion, really, in its purest sense. When you do get to the end of the lane, because eventually you will, not making a goal out of it, but you will, you just slowly turn around and you can pause again and reground, or you can just keep going and meditatively walk back the way you came. It's really a lot like, it looks like mindful pacing. Hopefully without the like worry connotation that pacing has, like you're pacing out of worry, but just the sort of same feel of slowly moving back and forth and not really going anywhere. As you continue with the stepping, you can use this mental noting technique. And as you kind of move into each of the parts of the stepping motion, you might note lifting as the foot is lifting, moving as it's swinging through space, placing as you feel the foot come down, shifting as the weight shifts. So it's with each part of the stepping movement that you're sensing. And keep in mind, these are just acknowledgments of what's happening. They're not commands. So you're not telling yourself to step and lift and move in place. It's just a way of kind of keeping it fresh in your mind and staying with the process. And it's almost like you're going, oh, that's what it feels like when my foot hits the floor. Oh, that's what it feels like when the weight shifts. So you try to bring some of this sense of like curious discovery into the process as if you've never walked before. Okay, so this noting technique, lifting, moving, placing, shifting, is more from the Mahasi style of insight meditation, which is a school mainly out of Burma and Sri Lanka. And that's one excellent way of doing it. However, if that noting feels a little tight or too like persnickety, too detailed, which can sometimes be the case, depending on your mood. In that case, you can just focus in a more open, relaxed way on the felt sense of the feet and the legs as you're moving down your path. Being just kind of like being present in the embodiment of walking and the feel of that. And that can be too loose for some of us. That can be kind of hard to like get our teeth into. But for others, this is the space we need to really just be present and feel the walking, just feeling the body walk. That's more how it's taught in the Thai forest tradition, which is another branch of the Theravada Buddhist lineage that's centered in Thailand. And both ways are really good. So I'm just offering both because one might be better for leaning into the alertness, one might be better for leaning into the ease, and one might just like suit you personality and mood-wise better than the other. So that's some simple instructions for trying out walking meditation. And I'll close with a funny story about walking meditation. From one time in 2020, I was doing an online retreat at home, trying to practice, and I lived in Sierra Madre, California at the time, and I had an apartment there, but I didn't have a balcony or an outdoor space. Our outdoor space was like kind of a parking lot. And there were like beautiful parks and stuff nearby, but I didn't want to drive anywhere during my retreat. I'm just trying to keep things really simple. So I thought, okay, I'll go down to the sidewalk, and like at 10 o'clock on a Monday, maybe there won't be too many people. I'll just try to do some walking meditation up and down the sidewalk. So, and it's a quiet little town, so for LA. So I thought maybe I could get away with that. Well, I went down, start doing my slow pacing, mindful walking back and forth up and down the sidewalk in Sierra Madre on my street. And it was going pretty well for, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And I was doing my kind of pause, standing still at the end of my lane and just kind of close my eyes and checking in. And these two women, like across the street, were doing a walk together. And they like crossed the street and came over and were like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh, me? Who, me?" Because it actually kind of freaked them out that someone was standing still or walking super slowly. I think they thought I had a stroke or something. I don't know. They didn't know what to do with it. So it was kind of funny. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just relaxing, because I didn't want to go into a whole thing about walking meditation with them. But anyway, this is just kind of a story about how you need to find the right spot to do this so that people don't think you're a zombie, or think that you're having a medical emergency or something weird is going on. So anyway, it's a funny story, and wherever you find to try some walking meditation, I encourage you to give it a go and see what this practice has to offer you in terms of your mindful movement and your stillness and your mental clarity and ease. So thank you very much for listening. I hope this inspires you to do a little mindful pacing. Until next time. So that's today's episode. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with a friend and/or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and help others find us that way. To learn more about my work, the Moved to Meditate class library, live online classes, teacher trainings, and private lessons, go to movedtomeditate.yoga. Thanks so much for listening.